and no! Oh, no, Morgan! Oh, I can't believe it. It sums up the Suns season.
It absolutely does.
Close, so close.
Absolutely does.
But they have been kept to just their one win with one more game to go. Yardapolti is in the story. 5 wins in a row, and they look bound for finals for the very first time.
Alrighty, hello, welcome to the Creedcast. My name is Dave, and as always, thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening wherever you're listening from. I know we have some people listening from overseas. It's really awesome that we have an international brand. So thank you for everyone listening, local, interstate, and overseas. We welcome you all, and thank you for joining us on the journey that is the Port Adelaide Footy Club. Another great win to review this week. Just a note, I am here on my own this week. Jamie has had some family matters to attend to. He's been a trooper, by the way, this year with the amount of, obviously, the first half of the year, recording with me over in the US, balancing time differences, sometimes balancing schedule, because, sometimes we'd have something on a Monday night or Tuesday night, whatever nights we were generally recording, and he's always been so flexible and everything. So for him not to be here means it's just something that couldn't be moved. It's just one of those things that couldn't be moved around to the point that we are recording. So his input and his wisdom and his incredible eye for different things, the little point of difference he gives the podcast will be missed this week, but I'll troop on my own as best as I can. Kind of a throwback to back when, for those that were listening the last few years prior to 2024, you just remember my descent into madness doing this on my own every week. But yes, it's fun to at least be doing it with a win on the board, which is another great away win up on the Gold Coast, a dominant win in the end, but one that had some interesting little battles in between it all. So we'll get into that in a moment. Just some housekeeping. I know I've sent messages to a few Patreon members, and if Jamie's brother is listening, I'm going to give him your little gift bag, but it's so that's why you wouldn't have gotten a message. But yeah, because we my little jaunt back to Australia happened sooner than expected. Patreon content's gone a bit quiet, and I feel bad about that because we love that people are supporting us there. So for those that are on there, I'm going to send out I've recovered my old stock of stickers, badges, King Charlie stubby holders, all that kind of stuff here. Got them in the back room behind me, so I'm going to put together a little care package for everyone out there that's on Patreon and send it off your way. It's just it's stuff that we used to sell, and it's just in my mind I've kind of written it off already. So I'm like, it's free stuff, even though I've paid a bunch for it. So I'm going to send out a little care package for everyone just to thank you for your support and all that stuff. So for those listening, if you haven't, I've just sent messages to confirm that the address you signed up with is still current. So if you haven't, just check your messages, just to check that. As I said, for Jamie's brother, who I hope is listening, shout out to you. I will just hand a package to Jamie next time I see him, which hopefully at the game this weekend against GWS, for him to get to you. That's about it on that front, housekeeping wise. Time to get into what was a wonderful, wonderful win up on the sunny Gold Coast. Quite warm and tough conditions as well. Saturday afternoon, your Yardapolti Footy Club looking just immaculate in those Jasmine Stewart designed Indigenous Guernseys for Indigenous round, which they're just incredible. They were in the away version, obviously being away on the Gold Coast on Saturday. Although I say obviously, but then as anyone that's listened over the last few weeks and heard mine and Jamie's consternation about how the Pride Round Guernseys were worn with the away one against Collingwood, and then we never saw the home one on the field, which is unfortunate. But anyway, I'm hoping we should be seeing the home Indigenous Guernsey on the field this week against GWS. But yes, this week, Yardapolti goes to the Gold Coast. And a really interesting game. Obviously, the final score is 8-10-58 to 3-6-24. You look at that and go, geez, nice and comfortable win, and of which it was. The second half, we kind of put it away pretty well. But the first quarter, Gold Coast came out with really good pressure, exceptionally high pressure rating. I think it was almost, Lauren, I know it was words verbatim. And then we plugged away. We actually were down. Gold Coast got ahead early in the second quarter. But after that, we kind of turned it on. Obviously, Joe Miller is really cool. Joe Miller's debut, by the way, and a really nice debut that gives our selection and match day squad committee some interesting questions to have. Always good questions to have. It's better to be having a selection squeeze than wondering where the hell you're going to get players from. But Joe Miller coming in and bookending the game actually with scoring the first goal of the game with a first kick in AFLW footy, which is always a cool record to have. And then she obviously bookended it with a nice snap at the end of the game too for our eighth goal of the game. But in between, geez, it was showtime with some of the goals that have been kicked there. But we're up by 2 goals at halftime, three and a half goals at 3/4 time, and obviously kicked away with another three goals to one in the last quarter to ultimately set up that 34-point advantage by the end of the game, which is a fairly decent game-winning score in the AFLW. And as the commentators were saying, I haven't had too much of an again, as I've said, and Jamie and I both mentioned, we obviously got into AFLW more intently once Port came in. I just had no reason to watch prior because Port's my team, and I just didn't have a passion for watching any other team until Port came in, which I knew would be coming eventually. I've had an interest prior, just cursory. I started hearing the big players' names and whatever, but just what opposition watch is still something I'm learning. So there was a few players I knew, obviously Rowwwww, who's a clearance beast, and she was really good on the day. She was probably the one that I knew of. But yeah, Gold Coast, despite their record, have kind of had an almost. We talk about Gemma Houghton having almost games the last few weeks. She didn't have an almost game this game. She was really good and kicked some nice goals. And she's always good every week. But it's just like those breakout games that she can have. But Gold Coast is a team, and it was mentioned by Kelly Underwood and Denny Harford on the call that they're kind of almost there at times. Like they're pressure and some of the ball movement they can get going and the pressure they can put on can be really good. I mean, they handled Matilda Schultz in this game a lot better. Obviously, Lauren Bella, I think, is the ruck woman's name for the Gold Coast. She's a really experienced one and a very good ruck. It gave Matilda a really good test, and whether I'd be interested to know if Matilda had any soreness or just a feeling of tentativeness in her play. Though she, that first ruck contest, she launched herself at and punched it forward almost to the 50 arc. So, but yeah, just the way they played, getting. I mean, there was that early one where again Matilda got caught holding the ball after. Her and Ella Bogue had a really nice little 1-2 moment on the kind of defensive half wing, kind of halfback flank there. And Matilda just took kind of probably, it's one of those ones where she takes possession, either she needs to either turn on her jets, which she can do, or she needs to get the kick away kind of first touch almost. But she just took an ambling step, which I don't mean ambling in a negative, like I'm not caring, just like she's, scanning around. And then that she should have. It's just one of those game awareness things that you probably need to know that you've just done a 1-2 in between some Gold Coast players, kind of applying territorial pressure around her. You should know that once you receive the ball, someone's going to be coming in pretty hot. But that was kind of just the Gold Coast plan early in the game, and throughout the game they were reasonable as well. They kind of just ran out of puff at the end. Which was impressive on our end because we're playing on our home deck. It was warm. I think it was 24, 25 up there. Typical Gold Coast conditions. Like anyone that's been to knows Queensland, it's just warmer up there, a bit more humidity around. Though not Gold Coast, you don't have to deal with as much of the humidity problems that far north Queensland does. But you're still dealing with a lot more more warm and stifling conditions. So that provides interesting conditions for us to deal with our fitness. But what I really liked, and I think Arnell mentioned it, I'm just, if you excuse me, I'm just now that since I'm on my own, I'm having to find stuff to talk about. It was Arnell mentioned that she was really impressed with. Well, at quarter time, we've obviously had an interesting first quarter up by goal, but Gold Coast certainly had their opportunities. Just missed a few. That she at quarter time, kind of the message was stick to the game plan. And I like that they're now at the point that they have a game plan that they're starting to find some confidence in. There's still things around the ground, like I think we lost the marking. The marking around the ground was a bit, Gold Gold Coast took 47 marks to our 28, 7 marks inside 50 to our 2, 10 contested marks to 1. So there's things like that around that kind of even up the contest a little bit. But as far as our actual game plan goes, I mean, we won the turnover battle by -5, which is always helpful. Contested possessions were pretty even. Hitouts were dominated by Gold Coast 29 to 11, but at the clearances, total clearances, we shaded 22 to 19, centre 6 to 5, 16 to 14 our stoppage. So there's a lot of those markers, apart from a couple. I think last week we actually, and the last couple of weeks, our marking's gotten better. And even in this one, 28 marks is still 12 better than that game where we only took 16 total for the game. But the game plan is evolving, and even though there's still things they want to improve, like obviously the marking wants to be improved. Marking inside 50, all those markers. That if you can improve that, then that just is going to make everything else that you're doing even better. But they know kind of who they are at the moment, and are kind of not even playing within their means. They're just playing. There's a bit of freedom about it. There's a lot more cut and thrust to the game, like intent to move the ball forward, instinctive intent out of stoppage and contest, which is really, really impressive for me to see, just to having watched them develop over the last few years. And even though obviously understanding of their development early, and especially in year 1 and year 2, that some of those moments where you just be like, oh God, if they just had that bit more confidence, you could see them burst out of that. Now they're doing those kind of things. And yeah, Arnell, just her preach, and we've talked about it time and time again this year now, though, we're just really impressed with her coaching. And yeah, just preaching that message that at quarter time, that their pressure was really good, but you've actually got yourself ahead at quarter time, so that's good. Yeah, she said just keep going at our game and attack it aggressively, and she said because we feel like the work we've done and our fitness would be able to sustain it even in what's warmer conditions than what we're used to. I was just pleased that we were able to execute our game style for most of the game under what was initially really high pressure. So yeah, they kind of weathered a storm, which is just something a football team, you just have to be able to do that. Like we would love, and we talk about it in the men's game as well, because men's game can be really, really about runs at times, in the modern game especially. And yeah, you'd love to just be constantly kicking 5, 6 goals a quarter and just be at your best all the time. And the reality is, the sports in every game is ebb and flow, particularly games that are constant movement like this. This basketball, things like that. It's teams just have their runs at times. Depends on who's on the field as well. And yeah, and some teams will come out with an intent to try to apply pressure and see if they can shake you off your kind of foundations. But it's what's impressive about this team is that our foundations are getting stronger and stronger every week, and that's putting us in good stead to handle a first quarter like this, where Gold Coast, if they maybe kicked a bit straighter, but we did have our opportunities in the end in this quarter as well. I think the inside 50 shaded Gold Coast. I think at one point late in the quarter, I noted in the telecast it said 10-7 in Gold Coast favour, but I reckon we got 1 or 2 more, and they might have got 1 more as well. But shaded by Gold Coast, but overall, we didn't let it get too out of hand, and I think inside 50s for the entire game. It was 40 to 38 our way, so it stayed pretty even, but we kind of flipped it a little bit by the end of the game, and ultimately we were just getting better pressure inside, better entries inside 50, and that put us in good stead. Which to go back to, and I'll take a quick break here, but then get into talking about the defensive effort as well, because I think that was really, really the key to winning this game, was just a great defensive effort from, and just a shout out to the leader that's become like such an important player. And for me, got to be, putting herself into future All Australian, whether, I don't know about this year, but Emily Borg, just an incredible game. Yes, shout out to Emily Borg. It's one of those games where you just feel the presence of a backline general, and considering this backline's already been hurt by the loss of our captain Janelle Cuthbertson, Emily's game, and I've seen it again. Like, she's been one we've loved right from the off. Like, she's been there from since day dot as a young recruit as well. She's still only 2021 now, but her marking's improved. Like her it's one of those things that you can, like, a rising tide lifts all ships, and it's also like there's a lot of players finding improvement in the games this year, and you can kind of see that just like Emily's game is improved. Like she's had all the tools, it's just starting to put them together now. She's taken marks. She took 4 marks for this game, which was tied for the most in the game, alongside debutante Joe Miller. Shout out to her again. And some really good contested back woman marks, like those kind of ones that you're kind of having to like have a little bit of contact with your opposing player and just win the contact in a legal way, and then just and find that and while watching the bowling have it come into the breadbasket kind of thing. Um, Good disposal efficiency out of the back, couple of tackles, and just like with their spacing and the way they were matching up with the defenders, they gave up marks inside 50, but they just weren't. Obviously, there was a few set shots missed, but that, to be honest, that's part of AFLW. If you're allowing people to get shots from 30 or more meters out, that's kind of, as I think we've talked about. Like if you know, the inside 50 is different in AFLW. Like if you're taking it more than 30 meters out, that's kind of a little bit more of a low percentage shot, unless you're just in, there's a lot more players coming to the game that are more are better at kicking those kind of shots, but they still can go a bit wayward. So kind of the difference between how we were able to generate good scoring opportunities, even though there were still some great goal snaps and whatnot. We were getting the ball, deep penetrative entries to dangerous players in and around the ball, and then finding, and because we've got, you've got Gemma Houghton and Kirsty Lamb and Caitlin Wenland, who suddenly is just the greatest goal sneak I've ever watched at this point. Like, I know there's a little bit of hyperbole, but I love Wenland now having six goals in the season. They all just seem to be these goal sneak ones, up for another great soccer goal this week. But yeah, you got Houghton snapping them. You've got Dowrick taking one off the ground. And then, Joe Miller kicking the relatively simple one out in front after a 50. But we're generating opportunities in and around goal in this game, and that's what generated a score of 8 goals 10. Whereas Gold Coast just couldn't get that many opportunities. They did fluff a couple, so I will give them that, but there was still just overall, I thought, a defensive effort in just not allowing too many golden opportunities. I'd still like us to maybe just a few of those marks inside 50, but it's more actually I'd just like us to take more marks inside 50. But as it turned out, it didn't matter because we were just, just had one of those games where we are just going to kick magic goals instead. Yeah, Emily Borg's game and just kind of marshalling the defense down there, I love. And alongside Molly Brooksby's just calmness and disposal, like her ability to gather the ball and kind of get it out and then start sending it outside 50. You kind of got this good tandem now of Emily Borg and Molly Brooksby, where Borg, her disposal is pretty, like, is improving, but I think Brooksby down there gives a point of difference in like someone who's really, really, sorry, I live on I've got the window open just for a little bit of air this morning. I probably should have shut it, but I'll just go along since it's just me, and I can pad here for a second and say I live on a road. There's a winery up there. Well, I'm in the Barossa, so there's wineries fucking everywhere. But there's just wine trucks up and down the road at times during the day, especially being almost 10 a.m. in the morning here. But yeah, the point of difference between Brooksby and like, is just Brooksby had these moments where she just calmly gathers the ball, starts to run out of 50, and she's got good eyes down the field. She's running it. I think she ran at 73% in this game, almost 74% disposal efficiency with 19 disposals, 385 gained. Stats that will come up a little bit later, but I'm putting them out there now. Just a really nice game, the tandem in defense, and then obviously alongside the likes of Tegan Germack, and really like Cheyenne Hammond's game in this one as well. Shout out to her for her 50th game. Obviously, a couple of Joe Miller with her first game, Cheyenne Hammond with her 50th game, Kirsty Lamb with her 75th game. And interestingly, brought up in the commentary at one point when can't remember if it was in Gemma Houghton had just missed a shot. Gemma could have had 3 goals. That one that she missed was really close. But Kelly Underwood brought up that I think Gemma at that point, with that behind, or the goal, one of the two, at that point in the game, she was playing her 70th game. She kicked 70 goals, and she had 70 behinds. Just an incredible stat to come up in the game. She, of course, messed that up when she kicked her second goal, so she was on 71 goals, 70 games, 70 behinds. which the commentators, of course, had some good fun with, and saying that she needs to understand the moment and how important those stats were for them. But no, it was a good game from her. But yeah, I just really like the way the defensive setup is evolving, and players are starting to really come in. I mean, Brooksby's just been an incredible addition down there. I think Germach's been under. We've talked about the injury replacement players a lot, with Joe Miller being another one alongside Wendland as well. Um, they've come in and beyond just being an injury replacement, they're an integral part of the side. I mean, the likes of Wendland and Germach haven't seen themselves out of the side since they've come in. Shout out to Caitlin Pope as well. Some really good little moments in the game again. Just a really good team effort, because there was one of those games where it felt like, no, I mean, Darrick's the only one of ours that gets above 20 disposals. Again, as the ball gets spread around a lot in this side as we're figuring things out and who's the kind of the main ball hawks and whatnot. But Darrick certainly kind of leveled herself up. I think she's comfortably leading our Player of the Year voting at this point, which I think she deserves to be as well. But yeah, I was really impressed with kind of, again, the spread of responsibility. And as I said, the rising tide lifts all ships thing, like the spread of responsibility and the spread of improvement that's happening around this side. And it's really being elevated by the likes of a lot of the first year players as well. Piper Window probably had a quieter one. She still got the 6 tackles, I think, for the game, which I think leads the team. No, Ash Saint. We're getting another one who had a quieter game by her standards. But I actually think that's an important thing to note, is that I'm gonna get so excited if we ever have a game where both Saint and Gemma get off the hook, and maybe Teakle's back, she pops up with a couple, or whoever else. But if we can ever get a game where Gemma and Ash are both kicking 3 goals apiece or something like that, geez, it's gonna be a fun one. That's kind of the fun that it is a nice part about this team, though, is you can kind of you know delineate, I guess, responsibility, and not that you ever are shirking your own responsibilities, but just if the game's not coming to you in that sense, we've got players that can kind of take upon the load. If Saint just wasn't quite getting the ball, and but she was doing a lot of unheralded work, I would say. She's one of those players that you just always have to be accountable for. So even if she's moving up the field a little bit to try to drag out defenders, or be an option upfield, because she can play that upfield role a little bit and take. I can't actually see if I didn't actually look at hit out stats for to see in depth to see if she how much she pinch hit, and I just can't recall. I've only watched the game once, so that's my bad. But yeah, she laid some tackles and she still got the hand on the ball 9 times, and had a clearance in there. So she was certainly involved, just not, it wasn't like there was no Ash Saint true highlights, I guess, in this one. But yeah, she still plays a role. And just, again, the fact that we've now got these players that we're finding roles for them to be dangerous. Because last year with Ash Saint's first year, it sometimes felt like we had, Gemma had a good year last year, and but it still felt like we had these players that were just not quite figuring out a way to, because when you've got those players, you eventually want to start winning games with them, obviously. Have them be involved in games that are either contests or obviously you're winning. Now we're getting these players involved in games. Gemma's kicking a couple of goals a game. Most weeks she had a couple of down weeks, but actually just, as we said, almost weeks, because she was trying some things and they just didn't quite come off, but almost did. But yeah, we're finding wins and results out of these players, and their games, their movement on the field has become more dynamic as the game plan has evolved. Arnell's game plan is really getting bedded in, and we're really reaping the rewards of that. And yeah, the game itself, I think this time last year we drew this game. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, we had a lead late and kind of blew it. And it kind of feels like, if it was last year's team again, if the Gold Coast come out with that kind of pressure in the first quarter, we maybe, I don't know if we would have wilted, but we would have not gone on and won by as much, and maybe have lost. It feels like now that winning breeds winning as well. That's just, unfortunately, just sometimes you just have to. Yeah, that's what we wanted this year, was this team to start winning a few more games and actually learn how to win games, because you have to. That's part of it. You have to learn how to win games. It was such a young side. winning has this 5 win streak is really important to them to actually get that feeling of like we are good. We deserve to win these games. Yes, if you want to be objective and look at kind of how the fixture is structured. Yes, we've had an easier run of games over the last few weeks, but we did, St Kilda are a team that were in the top 8 when we played them. Gold Coast have some good players, and the games before that, we showed some fighting spirit in some of those games. And as I've said, in that Richmond game, Richmond are in top 4, no, they're in 5th, I think, at the moment. They're right up and about it anyway. Um, Apart from that first quarter, I think we actually matched up pretty well with them, and could have, if we'd taken a couple more opportunities earlier in the last, then late in the third quarter, earlier in the last quarter, could have made it real interesting on Richmond to see if they could actually close out the win if we kept the pressure on. So we showed some signs there. I actually think that's where kind of some of the enthusiasm and confidence might have come from. Is actually, I hope, behind closed doors, they all looked at that and said, "Geez, that was a pretty good team we played, and we played pretty well against them." And that's kind of springboarded this 5 win streak. 5 game win streak is what I keep going. 5 win streak, and I'm meaning to say 5 game win streak. Um, I've had a busy week, and I'm running on Farmers Union iced coffee, Strong's. There is no other iced coffee for me. Shit, I apologize to anyone listening. It's just like, oh no, the iced coffee, the normal iced coffee does for me. I'm just like, that just tastes like milk to me compared to a nice Farmers Union iced coffee Strong. Just really bringing out my country roots there. I don't know if anyone remembers this, by the way, and anyone that does, this is going to be really niche. There was a thing like back when Farmers Union just had the one iced coffee. There was a thing where if you looked at the bottom of the carton, there was a number on it. You could something like I don't even. This is like I think urban school myth because I used to buy iced coffees at my high school all the time. It's like there was a number like imprinted, like embedded on the bottom of the carton that just might have spoke to the strength of it. I think it's complete bullshit now that I think back to it, but that was a thing in high school. I don't know why. It could have just been my group of friends. I don't know. But I feel like it did actually match up, like, and it could have just been placebo effect as well. Anyway, I'm very glad Farmers Union just brought out a strong to take away that. Although sometimes it can be there's strong strongs and then there's just regular strongs. Um, I've been drinking iced coffee for a long time and I can talk about it like it's wine at this point. Anyway, I've gotten completely off track. So I'm going to take a break here, and then we're going to get into the votes, and we'll just talk about a couple players a little bit more. Actually, before the votes, I might just go through. I did watch the game and take some notes. But a few fun moments I just wanted to talk about. So I'll take a quick break, and then I'll just talk about a few fun moments from the game before we get into the votes. Which Jamie has sent in votes. He did manage to get the game watched in, so he sent in his votes as well. So I'll read his out, and I'll have my votes as well. Which I can say we didn't Yahtzee. Obviously, usually we don't know whose votes are whose until we read them out live. Obviously, with Jamie not on this week, I do have seen his, but I still pushed his out of my mind, did mine, and I did find some points of difference. So yeah, we'll talk about some fun moments from the game, and then do the votes to finish off here in a moment. Alrighty, since I'm on my own and I can just do this, I'm just going to run through my notes, which are not extensive from the watch, but I thought one thing. I mean, I noted it earlier in the podcast, but again at the end of quarter one, I just when the first quarter finished, you just saw. I'm trying to think who was on screen when the siren went to the end of the first quarter. You could just see our girls are sucking in the deep ones already, like they're just the deep breaths, and so you could tell that they're struggling with the. Sorry, I should have put my phone on silent before starting recording. But yeah, you could see that they were like really, really trying to get those deep breaths in. So really impressive that they were able to run the game out, and our fitness did show in the end. So good signs for our development in fitness and all those programs that we're instilling at the club, alongside just the game plan continuing to evolve. I thought I had a note at the start of sometime in the early parts of the second quarter about flipping the field, which is very much a gridiron like American football college term, but basically because it felt like territorially we're spending more time in the 2/3 towards the Gold Coast goal in the first quarter rather than rather than our half, and it just felt like we just flipped the field to be spending more time and making it harder for the Gold Coast to get out of our zone rather than the other way, which I think it builds the pressure that allowed us to get those couple of goal break by the end of the second quarter and going into half time. Flipping the field in the NFL and stuff like that is when if you can stop a team in good field position and then get a punt, or just punt the ball away and get it deep into the opposition into the opposition zone and give them a full field they need to go down. And if you can keep doing that, then you just keep the pressure on and not letting them get into territorial advantage. And I just felt like we did that a bit as the game wore on. We just made sure to just have the ball a little bit further down there. And as the stats bear out in the end, inside 50s were pretty even, but I just felt like we had more penetrative uh, like attack into our forward zone versus theirs. Like their inside, I'd really be interested in like an inside 25 stat or something like that. Like that would be something that would maybe or inside 30. I don't know what it would be, but that kind of stat I think out of this game without maybe I'm completely talking out of my ass and it wouldn't actually show that much, but it just feels like we were able to get more dangerous opportunity and find more and actual close goal scoring opportunities than Gold Coast, and that came from flipping the field and just getting a little bit more attack going our way. If you could, I know Kelly Underwood gets a bad rap at times, and there is some reasons that she does just mess up names a lot, but she did have a good. I thought she had a good commentary game as far as hitting the moments. Like there was um, when Gemma Houghton kicks the goal, the snap on the outside of the foot, which beautiful goal by the way. Just like a real, like she's just a real boisterous. She's got magic in her boots, Gemma Houghton, which I loved. And then near the end of the near the end of the game, when Joe Miller, obviously with another nice snap and goal, uh, finishes off our goal scoring for the day. She yells, "It's Miller time on the Gold Coast," which just as anyone that knows the old Miller beer ads in the US, and it's just a popular terminology at this point. Just nice. I thought that was a really good commentary moment. I thought it was good. I have genuine criticisms of her commentary at times, but I think that kind of it was good commentary for the moment, and I think it's good for Joe Miller to have. Like, I think it's just cool that when players have good commentary to go with moments, and I think Joe Miller's last goal there, having that moment with it is really cool. So, also a few shout outs to I think Cheyenne Hammond, just late in the third, had an incredible one-on-one win in defense, and I think it's just again one of those moments that you're just seeing this defensive unit grow, and a lot of these young players grow quite well into their roles. And so, yeah, not too many big notes, but I thought I wanted to just shout out the commentary really in those moments because I thought that was really, really, really cool moment for Joe Miller to experience. And just whatever your career ends up being, if you have that little highlights package with it's Miller time, like just like I would take that. I'd have like one of those frames in my house that you can show photos, but you'd actually have it with a video and have the sound on just every 10 minutes. You'd just be like, oh, I remember this. That's way too much me time. But yeah, I thought one more note actually that I've just looked at as well. The Wendland's goal was a great opportunist goal and actually a really nice finish too. Like great kind of echoes of DBJ against Hawthorn late in that game to win it. Just the soccer work. Olivia Levicki's work in the build up to that one was really good. She kind of kept the pressure on and in a real good contest with her opposition player. Kind of was in it for a bit and eventually finally got the ball out, tapped it out to Wendland, who did all the work to get the plaudits. But I thought that was actually great work from Levicki in there. She's a player that's in and out of the side a little bit depending on our needs for tools and injuries. Obviously, she's been in really since Teakle's been out. Still not guaranteed a spot probably once Teakle's back up and running, but good little moment for her as well. So I wanted to shout that out for her, a player that's doing a lot of hard work, but yeah, is still kind of trying to find a way into the side, a role in the side when it's fully fit. So yeah. One more note. I thought this was a really cool quote from Arnell at 3/4 time when they talked to her between the quarters. Her main message was just be relentless, and I love that. I love this idea that this team just wants to be relentless. in their pressure, in their application, in their fitness. They've got all these markers now that they're actually saying things that they are. They're saying what we are. Like we kind of seen over the last couple of years of their development since they've come in. We've seen kind of the brand and what they want to be, but now they're actually articulating it, saying this is who we are. We're a fit team that expects to be able to run the game out, even if not with you, over you, and then we will, despite the conditions and the fact we had a bit of a break at 3/4 time. Nell's message was be relentless and finish this off, and we did. We increased our lead at every point of the game to end up running out by 34 points. So that's a really, really good plus point to the program, the development, the game plan, the attitude and spirit and overall ethos that's been implemented into the side. And I'm really be relentless. I think is just a great kind of trigger term or whatever for the team to go with and just say that that's who we are. We are relentless and we will be relentless. So love that from Arnell and continually loving what she's doing and developing the side. Alrighty, it's time to do our votes now. Who's am I going to do first? I should have figured this out before I started recording, eh? I'll do Jamie's first. So a quick read on his. Yeah, an honourable mention to Molly Brooksby. Says unlucky to miss out in his note there, which she had a good game. I've mentioned some stats already, and I'll mention her again in mine. Like I said, we didn't Yahtzee. He has 2 votes for Joe Miller, saying that she ticked all the boxes on debut, which you have to say he's absolutely spot on with that. My iPad note is tripping out here for a second, but yeah, I mean, she ran at almost 50% disposal efficiency, but she was getting involved in the game. Like she had a little bit of clearance work. Good to see her at some CBAs. 13 disposals and 5 tackles, four marks, which equal best for outside alongside Joe Miller, alongside Emily Borg. 2 players took 3, which is Sachi Simon, Matilda Schultz. The rest of it's really just mixtures of 1 mark. So few others that took 2, but yeah, to be tied with the lead for a marking, which as we've said, it's a little bit of a point of contention and not concern at this point. We just know it's developing. They know they know they want to get better with it. So yeah, it's a really good debut from her, and obviously kicking a couple of goals. One fairly academic to start the game, but a nice one with a little bit of flash to finish off the game as well, to bookend the game for us. And great celebration for her first goal, and great that she's a Queensland girl, so her family was there to see it. Real kind of fairy tale stuff, really, which is cool for her. His 3 votes. Sorry, I said I did the honorable mention to Brooksby and then went straight to Miller with the 2 votes. His 1 vote went to Matilda Scholes. He said not her best game, but good enough, and I probably tend to agree with that. She just had a good battle with a very, very, very good ruck and one of the premier rucks in the competition. So, yeah, no, shout out to Matilda, who's still, and like I said, I don't know if she's got any residual soreness or any just tentativeness from last week. Good to see her get through the game, and doesn't seem like she's too hampered by whatever kind of ailed her to take her out of the game late last week against St Kilda. So, but yeah, 1 vote to Matilda Schultz, 2 votes to Joe Miller. 3 votes to Emily Borg. A rock down back is his note, which absolutely agree. I've just, I spent a fair bit of time there earlier talking about the defensive efforts and her, 12 disposals, running at almost 67%. Obviously, I mentioned the 4 marks, a couple of tackles, 260 odd meters gained. She was, and I think even contested game was reasonable. I don't know, 5 contested possessions. It's actually a real even spread of a lot of players that getting it. It was just a high, big contest game, I guess. So, which, by the way, Joe Miller had 7 contested possessions as well, just to roll back to her. Schultz had 9 too. So there's a lot of players that really get in and under involved. But Borg, just to rebound 50s, 4 of them, 10 intercept possessions as well, which was huge. I think best on field. Sachi Simon at 8. Ella Bogue had 7. Which shout out to Ella Bogue, by the way. I hadn't actually mentioned her yet in this podcast, but again, she had a really, really nice game. One of those ones that's been around for a few years now and has really taken a leap up this year and just showing kind of that faith in continuing to push forward the development of the side. But yeah, Emily, just a really, really good game. I think one of her best games down back, just as far as her maturity and just her marshalling of it all. And like I said, I think Molly Brooksby's they're really tandeming up quite well down there. His 4 votes go to Kirsty Lamb, which is one word next to in the text was mongrel, which you got to. It's just yeah, she's got a good amount of mongrel about her and how she goes about it. Constantly involved. She had the six tackles in the game, which was second only to Saint and tied with Piper Window and I think there was one other Ella Bogue as well. Again, shout out to Ella Bogue, just popping up there in all the stats as I read out the comparative points. It's just yeah, really good from Ella. But yeah, Kirsty, and she had a fucking fantastic, and 75th game as well. Obviously, an All Australian, leading goal kicker, Premiership player, all that stuff at Western Bulldogs. She's had a really good career already, and as we've said, 75 games is a big point for AFLW players to get to, considering the amount of games they play in a year. So yeah, she's a really good marker on her debut game. Kicks a great goal and has a great game in general, and really gets involved. And yeah, she had the 6 tackles as well, and a couple 100 meters gained. But disposal efficiency wasn't really hugely great, but the kind of the role she plays, that sometimes what can happen there. And yeah, she led the team for contested possessions as well with 11. So that means it's 11 out of her 16 possessions were yeah, contested. So that's kind of, and when you're playing that kind of role, your disposal efficiency can drop off a little bit. So there's always context to the numbers, as we've talked about a lot. So yeah, no surprise. I think this is probably the one point that we agree on in our stats, in our votes. Not that we don't disagree with votes, it's just the difference in them. Abby Dowrick best on for Jamie and will be for me as well, just to cover that off. She had the 22 disposals. I think 9 of those were contested. 8 of those were contested, sorry. 4 inside 50s, 3 rebound 50s. She had a couple of intercept possessions, 4 clearances. 7 score involvements as well, which I think led the team. Yes, it did from a couple that were on 6, including Juzzy Robinson and Juzzy Mills Robinson and Gemma Houghton, which, by the way, I hadn't even mentioned Juzzy as well. I thought she had a great game as well. Just really, really finding her role in there as well. So a lot of experienced players just kind of starting to really synergize, find some synergy. If that's not a word, then I'm going to start using it because it sounds right. But finding some synergy with the kind of the youth and the experience are really starting to match up, and really you can just see it exploding in confidence throughout the team. But yeah, back to Abby. Yeah, she had again, just one of those games, just that goal as well. It was just such a, the commentators I feel like the commentators almost kind of took the shine off it, because they were just like, oh, sometimes you just got to throw the boot at it. But you can see, like, as soon as it hits the ground, she just see, like, I mean, she is getting it towards goal and maybe hoping it gets to, I think Ash Saint was the only one, like, was in a one-on-one little battle and just kind of shepherded off the defender to let it roll through. But players do that shit all the time in AFL men's, and we'll laud it as goal of the year kind of stuff. So yeah, the fact that she threw a boot at it with conviction to get it towards goal, and then it's kind of 100% of the shots you don't take, you don't score 100% of the shots you don't take, or whatever. Michael Scott / Wayne Gretzky. So yeah, a great goal to cap it off, and again, she just, I think they mentioned at one point just how much of an experienced player she looks, and I think Kelly Underwood made a note to just how her application and commitment to getting better is, like, she's been around for a little while. She's still quite young, and you're just really seeing it pay dividends now. She's, again, one of those players I just look at, and she's got that uber professional, because we're still in a stage where we're kind of seeing the AFLW develop into a fully, hopefully fully professional league down the future. And it's not it's not their fault at all. So the AFL needs to put more investment into it too. And some of the stories that come, like some of the writing about the AFLW is just too negative lately. There needs to be constructive criticism, but some of the stuff about where the league's at is just not addressing the elephant in the room, which is the AFL just hasn't actually is trying to fit it in rather than make it its own league. So yeah, but Abby's one of those players that just epitomizes what a professional woman's football player that can have it. And there's plenty of players like that around the league now. As we look across it again, I don't like pointing it out, but Ebony Marinoff's just a player that you really got to look at and just say, she's a quintessential kind of player that could just not that you're ever going to put him into a men's game. You're just like, she just looks like the kind of player that could dominate anywhere. And Abby's building that kind of career. I think in the next few years, you'll see her numbers go up, and she'll just really. So I feel like she's still probably underrated around some other fan bases, possibly. But yeah, she's incredible, and once again, best on ground for both myself and Jamie. And I think she's taken a fair percentage of best ons now at this point between us. So yeah, I'll get to my votes quickly and wrap it up here. So I had Joe. So my honorable mention I had for a couple had Matilda was one of my honorable mentions. She didn't quite make it into my votes. I thought Gemma Houghton, not like a huge disposals game or anything like that, but a couple of goals, 60% efficiency, and just barometer stuff. So she's always got like a soft spot for me. So she was an honorable mention as well. But my one vote I gave to Joe Miller, as we mentioned before. The stats, she took the 4 marks, kicked a couple of goals, operated at reasonable disposal efficiency. Well, just below 50%, but I think just on debut and kind of playing, she moved around a bit, a little bit like centre bounce and centre work and a bit down forward as well. And just overall, she was just applying herself quite well and had the 5 tackles as well. Just a really, really good debut from her. I had Kirsty Lamb for my 2 votes. It's probably it flips a little bit there because I think Jamie had her second best, but I just had her in. It's not that it's very even beyond Dowrick, I think, which is probably I think I had Dowrick down as best on for most of the time. I did think about putting my 4th, which I'll get there in a moment at best, just because of how much I loved her game. But yeah, 2 votes, Kirsty Lamb. Great 75th game. Obviously, all the stuff I just talked about with her, talking about Jamie's votes. So my 3 votes I gave to Molly Brooksby, which I know Jamie had in his honourable mentions and noted that she was unlucky to miss out. I just loved her work. The next 2, actually, I probably maybe teased a little bit earlier on about where my votes might go, but just talking about the defensive work, I just loved Molly Brooksby's game. How well she uses the ball, I think, kind of elevated her for me in my votes as well. She's one of our best users on the day, I think. Just considering the amount of ball she had, I think the only one that had a better disposal efficiency than her was Ebony O'Day at 87.5%, but she had 8 disposals, which again, Ebony O'Day just doesn't always get a lot of hands on the ball, but she does a lot of great work. She had the 4 tackles as well. We love Ebony, as we've mentioned at times. But yeah, Molly's disposal efficiency was second best on field behind Ebony O'Day, and with the fact that she has 19 disposals in there, I think the more disposals you have and the better your disposal efficiency remains. That's really important. So, and overall, like just her ball use coming out of the back is really helping out our game going forward. We're getting more forward thrust because we're getting better ball use out of the back as the year goes on. And Molly Brooksby is a big part of that, and she's getting a fair bit of work around the field as well. So, yeah, and of course, my 4 votes teased it. Emily Borg, who I did think about giving best on at one point, but I was just like, I've got to give it to Abby, but I could have because I just had Abby there from the start, and I thought, I know I'm not going to overthink this, just leave it with Abby. But again, I just thought Emily's game was really, really fucking good. And as Jamie's note said, a rock down back, and she absolutely is. She's the general down there. She's the straw that stirs the drink at this point. The fact that she's still so young and there's still so much development to go in her makes it quite scary as well. She's just that kind of, I don't know, you could compare her to like an Alex Rance type or something like that. I don't know. That's the first player that came to mind for some reason. Not again, don't want to compare to AFL men's, but there's a lot of negative comparison that happens to AFL men's a lot. So I like to do the positive thing and really highlight where this game can go and where some of these players, just how much I love their games. And Emily Borg's game, just her marking's improving, her reading of the ball's improving as well. That's probably the one thing I hadn't mentioned earlier. There's just moments in the game we just see the ball reading's still a little bit off. That's where we're, if we can just read the ball a little bit better, the flight of the ball and all those things, and take it. That's sometimes where those marks are missed. Is just simple ball reading. It's not even just being outmarked. It's just ball reading. So, but hers is improving again. She was tied for most marks on the field with Joe Miller, and she's just reading both the flight of the ball and the ball coming in, but also what her opposition forward is doing. So she's reading it. Her game intelligence is just improving week on week, and I'm really enjoying seeing that development. And again, as I said, there's so much more to come, which is scary good. But yeah, as I said, Dowrick, we've run through a fair bit of that, so I don't need to go too much more into it. But yeah, she was my best on as well. That leaves us to wrap it up now. We have GWS at home this Sunday. 4:35 Alberton Standard Time. So it's at Alberton. It's our last home game of the year. Now, there is connotations, and I should just open up. I was looking into this last night while I was having a couple of glasses of wine. and I should have actually made notes of it, but I am a semi-professional amateur shit podcaster. So, and I just started writing semi-professional in Google instead of AFL fucking AFL.com.au. Oh, we're at the end of the podcast here, folks, and I've been on my own, so I'm losing my mind. Let me just open up the AFLW ladder because there is a way I believe that we can have a home final. So I'm going to run through this stuff real quickly, and if I've messed this up, I don't know how I haven't actually dealt with AFLW finals before. So, but basically, we are in seventh right now. We just win and we're in finals either way because we have a game break on NAM at the moment, which is Melbourne, the Indigenous name for Melbourne. We'll refer to them as NAM for the Indigenous round. So NAM are in ninth on 20 points. We've obviously a game ahead on 24 points in seventh. Essendon are between on 22. They've had a draw in there somewhere, apparently. So our percentage, and this is really important as well, our percentage is boosted quite healthily with some of those the fact that we've won a few of these games a little bit more comfortably. We're at 120.5. NAM are at 75.1. Essendon at 94.3. Essendon don't have an Indigenous name listed there. So that's why I'm referring to them that way. But so our percentage is good. So if we can just beat GWS and with and I don't think even percentage is going to matter at that point, then we go up to 28 points, which at the moment the teams we're actually only one game behind Goanna, which is Adelaide, and Walyulup, which again, if I'm mispronouncing that, I apologise. Which is Fremantle's Indigenous name. So Walyulup are in fifth, Goanna in fourth with 28 points each. We're only one game behind them. Richmond are between us in sixth on 26 points. Now, the intriguing part is Goanna played Geelong. I expect they probably expect to win that one. While you'll play Western Bulldogs again, expect them to win those. So you're probably sitting there going, those two teams are probably winning and staying in those positions, and they get themselves to 32 points. Kangaroos are in top, and they've got Gold Coast. They're probably winning that. Brisbane are in third. They've got St Kilda. They're probably winning that. Again, I'm saying probably. You never know what's going to happen. I'm just looking at the ladder positioning, and those are teams that we're beating. So you expect them to be doing the same. The intriguing one is Hawthorn in second are playing Richmond in, and Hawthorn probably want to win that to make sure they hold on to second because Brisbane likely win, you'd think. So Hawthorn wants to win that game against Richmond, who are in sixth. And Richmond would probably want to win that to make sure they hold on to a home final. Because I would expect, if the finals work similarly to AFL men's, obviously, that if we can win our game playing in seventh and Hawthorn could beat Richmond, then that would flip-flop ourselves and Richmond. And then if Western Bulldogs can pull off an upset against Walyulup, then maybe we could shoot up even higher depending on percentage. But Richmond have a better percentage than us, but if they lose, that doesn't matter because they've had a draw in there. So they're on 26 points. We're on 24. So if we can just win comfortably and win at all and Richmond lose, then we jump into sixth, which again, I think gets us a home final. So there is permutations here to think about in how it all shakes out. And we're already hitting our markers by making finals this year. If we can, like I said, we win, we're in this year. This week, and we're going to play finals. We're in a finals position right now. We win, we're in. We lose. It's probably dependent on what NAM does against Collingwood and how much they win by, because we can't be jumped by anyone but Essendon. Obviously can jump us, but that would just jump us one position and drop us down to eighth. The only one that can gain position on us and drop us out of the top eight is NAM at this point. But they're on 75 percentage points. So they play Collingwood. So who knows how that will go. But yeah, there's permutations there that we could miss, but it's unlike. And again, we should be winning this game. I think we're at a comfortable enough point now in our development and how well we've been playing. The GWS, who are in 16th, I believe, have only won one game, lost 8, had a draw in there as well. And their one win and draw must have been in the early part of the season because they've got 5 losses on the bounce. With how we're playing at home. GWS are on a horrible run. Their season's over. This is the game you should be. You should be winning this game, and I'm really pleased that we're at a point that I can say that about this Yardapaldi women's team that we should be winning this game. There's no ifs and buts about it. We should be winning this game, and then winning this game maybe win it with a little bit of flair would be nice. Get a little bit of percentage boost. But I think just how I read the tea leaves, I think percentage may not be that important. I think it's just going to be purely points-based, results-based this weekend. And if Hawthorn can get a win on Richmond and we can get the win, then we jump up into 6th. And as I said, I assume that gives us a home final, which would be an incredible result. And then we get another chance to go to Alberton. But this weekend is your last chance to get to Alberton for sure to watch this great women's team, this wonderfully developing Yardaporty women's team play some footy. It's a wonderful day to be down there, always at down there. And it's 4:30 in the afternoon, so it may not be quite as cold as it's been the last couple of times. And Jamie and I have been down there on a Friday and a Thursday night, the last 2 home games. Perfect time down there. Women's games do, I know some people might be going, it's Sunday night, school the next day. Women's games are shorter. They get done within 2 hours, essentially, unless you've got a long injury layoff. And it just goes standard amount of time, including your halftime breaks and all that. It's done it's done basically in 2 hours. So your game's done by 6:30. You can jump in the car, even if you live an hour and a half away home by 8 o'clock. I don't think there's really an excuse to miss your last opportunity to see this team play some footy, get on board. This could get them to a 7-4 winning record for the season, and obviously get us into finals. And you should get on board now. As we keep saying, friend of the pod Dave Lloyd keeps saying as well. Get on board and support these ladies. They're doing great work, and they're only going to get better because this is just the start. This is just such a youthful team starting to really find their feet, along with some that sprinkling of talent, of experienced talent that's in there that's still got a fair bit of time left in them. Jeez, it's a good time to get on board. So get around them 4:30, 4:35, I think exactly. It's just 4:30 at Alberton this Sunday. Yardaporty versus GWS, hoping for another big win and really set ourselves up for a decent finals positioning as well, as I've just gone through. There's a bit to play for in it, and that slight hope at a possible home final. So get around them. That's about it from me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tolerating me on my own this week. Jamie should be back next week, and we'll hopefully get around to both reviewing another win, hopefully 6 wins on the bounce, and then previewing what's coming in finals. It's a really exciting time to be a part of it. Love everyone being part of it with us, coming along with the journey. Can't the lady Pear.